Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for September 5th, 2017. This is an emergency edition of the podcast. We are in the bunker as some news has just dropped. With me today are Brad Oman.
Hello.
And Germain Lussier.
Back on the Slash Filmcast.
Well, not
Daily, first time now.
Yeah,
I know this is Slash Daily.
Yeah,
so it's fine. Yes,
it's different.
I went back on Slash Film. I'm going to delay this as long as possible, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Yes, Germain used to write for the site for many years, and he is a Star Wars expert, as are we. Brad, tell us the news.
Out of nowhere today, Disney and Lucasfilm made an announcement saying that the studio and Colin Trevorrow, who was hired to direct Star Wars Episode 9 back in 2015, have mutually decided to part ways, and Colin will no longer be writing or directing Star Wars Episode 9.
Now, that's a bit of a bomb. I didn't see this coming. Brad, did you see it coming?
I mean, I'm not surprised that he's been removed, but it is kind of shocking that it actually did happen. If any director out of the lineup we've seen so far tackle movies was going to be removed, I feel like Colin was the most likely, if only because there's a lot of, ill will towards him because of the opportunities he's been given without much evidence of him proving himself to be a filmmaker worthy of such opportunities, and also because of the backlash from the Book of Henry. It just seems like he's been the most controversial choice that has been made as far as from Star Wars fans and general cinephiles to tackle a movie like this. So while I'm surprised and shocked that it came out of nowhere today, I'm not necessarily caught off guard by it, I guess.
I mean, I don't think studios usually react to fan reactions. I mean, they certainly haven't with all this whitewashing stuff. The Book of Henry, by the way, got horrible critic reaction, but Lucasfilm saw that movie, before he even started writing Star Wars Episode 9. Germain, what do you think about this news?
I'm not surprised. I had heard for a while that just from people around LA, not anybody that I'd be confident running a story on, that they thought Trevorrow was going to be out. And so I was kind of waiting for it. And it's always a surprise when they put a piece of news like this, just on a late afternoon. They just put a tweet up and a story and that's it. Actually, I don't even know if they put a tweet up. I think they just put the story online.
Yeah, it's not even on Twitter. Angie Han, who used to write for the site, tweeted out, is getting fired from Star Wars just the Hollywood rite of passage now, which I think is funny.
And Mike Ryan tweeted that there's more ex-Star Wars directors than actual Star Wars directors, because Josh Trank, Phil and Chris, and then I guess Gareth Edwards kind of. So no, I'm not surprised. And I think it really comes down to this, right? And Brad made some good points. So I won't reiterate those, but it's that I think once Phil and Chris left, they brought in Ron Howard, and then you start hearing that Stephen Daldry was going to be up for Obi-Wan. I think they're in the business of these movies now, where if they don't make $1 billion plus, they're not a success. If Han Solo only makes $600 million, that's not a success in their eyes. So you need directors who are very, very competent and very, very down the middle, who are going to deliver exactly what they want. Stephen Daldry is never going to give you a huge, crazy experience like you think Miller and Lord might, And Colin Trevorrow, I think he is the kind of guy who people would have, he would have listened. I thought he would listen to Kathleen Kennedy and sort of go with their vision. Apparently, maybe he didn't. But I think they're done with taking gambles with these filmmakers, and it's time to put in old, dependable people who are going to make these movies exactly the way they want them to be made.
Yeah, I've definitely heard from agents in Hollywood that Lucasfilm is no longer considering, new hot filmmakers for Star Wars, that they are looking for, established names, established talent that, have a long track record. So, okay, yeah, let's jump into this. Why was he fired? Hollywood Reporter said that script issues have continued to be the continuing sore spot of Episode 9's development, with Trevorrow having had repeated stabs at multiple drafts. In August, Jack Thorne, the British scribe who wrote the upcoming Julia Roberts, Jacob Tremblay movie Wonder, was tapped to work on the script. And apparently that script was not good working out. I also talked in my research for this. I talked to Jason at Making Star Wars. He has all the Star Wars scoop. I want to know what he knew about this, and he told me that basically when Colin Trevorrow's writer left, as you know, he has a working partner that he works with on all his films, Derek Connolly, who he's worked with on Safety Not Guaranteed, Jurassic World 2, Book of Henry. So when he was booted off the project, he almost Trevorrow wanted to leave out of loyalty, but they talked him into staying in doing this draft with this new guy, and apparently, how the draft was turning out was not what Lucasfilm or Kathleen Kennedy wanted. I've talked to other sources very close to the production who want to remain off the record, and they say that basically the same thing. So this is the story: is that this is episode 9, and it's something that Lucasfilm cares deeply about, and the new writer was brought on to polish Colin's script, and it just didn't move the needle. So that seems to be the reason why. It's not the response to Book of Henry. But what does this mean for this film, Germain?
I think they're going to get somebody who's going to make, the movie they want. I mean, like a name that everyone's talking about, and I heard people talk about, again, not enough to write an article, unfortunately, is J.J. Abrams. I heard they're ready to back the dump truck up to his house and be like, please come and do this movie for us.
I don't think dump trucks are allowed in Pacific Palisades. No, but
okay.
I'm wondering though. I've heard quite a bit that Kathleen Kennedy and JJ kind of butted heads on Force Awakens. True. So I'm wondering.
No, I'm sorry. Go finish, Pete.
I'm just wondering if they would want to do another film with him.
Yeah, that's a good point. But he also gave them, one of the most successful films of all time, and also another name that I never heard, but just kind of makes sense, would be Ava DuVernay. She's literally been on Instagram stories at Lucasfilm, finishing sound on A Wrinkle in Time, which comes out in March.
Yeah.
And Kathleen Kennedy,
and she even contributed ideas to Force Awakens.
To Episode 7. You're absolutely right. And she's just this, Kathleen Kennedy, this powerful woman, female executive who has yet to hire a woman to direct a Star Wars movie. You can't have Patty Jenkins because she's going to be doing Wonder Woman 2.
Well,
and
not quite, because the deal for Wonder Woman 2 has not closed yet, according to the trades. So that is still a possibility.
Don Hertzfeld just tweeted that he wanted to do it. I mean, I think everybody's going to joke about it, and I just think realistically, I just think Patty Jenkins wouldn't leave. I mean, what are they going to, even if it's like $10 million more to do episode 9, would you do that to not continue with this character, Wonder Woman? I think she does Wonder Woman no matter what. So I mean,
for sure. But do you think Warner Brothers would be willing to wait, a year, 2 years?
No, get that movie out tomorrow. We need big hits.
Okay, my suggestion would be Rian Johnson. He was originally rumored to be writing this film. That was debunked. The Lucasfilm is very happy, from what I hear, with Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Yep. So why not just sign him on and bring him back on to do another one?
Well, because a man's got to sleep, Pete. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's just really what it comes down to. It's like, not that they wouldn't love him to do it. It's just like, now then he's signing on to another 3 years of his life. And I mean, it's nice to have a job, but it's hard work, So, I mean, I'm sure they have asked him or will ask him, or he's considered it, or maybe might do it. But I would just be surprised to do back to back like that. Man, I can't imagine how grueling that would be.
Brad, do you have any suggestions on who could replace Colin Trevorrow?
I wouldn't mind seeing Brad Bird do it, but he's pretty busy with The Incredibles 2 right now. I guess there's a chance that since production isn't supposed to start until late this year, early next year, that he might be able to overlap and pull it off, because Incredibles 2 comes out in June of 2018.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think that's possible.
I mean, he'd be really busy, like, to pull it off, like almost probably like pulling like when Spielberg does 2 movies in a year kind of thing. But I think that would be pretty stressful for him.
He wouldn't do that for the first one. He tried to figure that out with Tomorrowland.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a complicated situation. What
about Ron Howard? Do you think he'll be too busy on Han Solo for a while? Yeah. There's no way he can do it.
One of the things I'm interested in seeing is there was a story a while back that Colin Trevorrow specifically asked Rian Johnson to add something in The Last Jedi for Episode 9. So I wonder if that's something that stays in The Last Jedi now, or if it's something that they remove because now it's not going to be a part of Episode 9. Like how much of the core story that has been developed of Episode 9 will change if they get somebody new to come on. Like, do they start from scratch or what? Because they already started over after Carrie Fisher passed away. So what's the state of the project even now?
Well,
Carrie Fisher, yeah, go ahead. I
was going to say, here's the thing. I've heard that they've been locked on Last Jedi for a couple months now. That it is completely finished. They could screen it today if they needed to. It's that close. And I don't think they're going to change anything. But, I mean, you do ask a good question. Are they going to start completely over from scratch with a page 1 rewrite, and do they have the time? If this film is still coming out in May 2019, and did the press release say that it was? I'm not sure.
Doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything about holding the release date or not.
Well, if it did, Force Awakens began filming in April for a December release date the next year. Rogue One July for December the next year, and Last Jedi February for December the next year. If they want to make the May 24th release date, they need to start shooting 18 months before filming. That's like November, and that's, I think, a hard date, unless they're going to push this back to December, which they could do. So, I mean, what do you guys think?
No, I think those are I think that's a good point. I mean, that was the plan, right? The plan before this was like early this next year, right? I mean, or it had to have been. I just think they could do it. I think now they, any characters that are introduced that may need new effects, that stuff is kind of done. I just feel like it'll probably be, by the third time, the team is moving much quicker. Everything is sort of ship shape from a production standpoint. So I think it's doable. But I do think the May move does give them 100% gives them that leeway. Though I think December 19 is Avatar, or is that 20? I don't know.
Yeah, like that's ever coming out, Germain.
Yeah, that's true. I lost my train of thought about
I'm wondering, who else could we put on this list? Like Lawrence Kasdan, would they be interested in having him come on? Like, he's an established, he's a veteran. He hasn't, directed a good film in many years. But it seems like he's, in Kathleen Kennedy's inner circle. What do you guys think of Kasdan?
Would it be out of the question to think that Dave Filoni could get a shot?
Oh my God!
I would love that. It's never going to happen. But he wants to direct a movie. Like, he's talked about it. They haven't announced what he's doing after Rebels is ending.
And we should say Dave Filoni's the director or an executive producer of Star Wars Rebels, and he did the Clone Wars and Last Airbender before that. Yeah.
He's part of the story group, more or less, and is as talented a filmmaker, even though he's never made a film. Or I guess the Clone Wars movie, right? So he'd be great. I mean, the thing is, like I said,
with him though is I've heard Kathleen Kennedy is done working with these green directors.
Exactly. So but he's there. He's been there. They sort of know what he's going to get with him. I think he has a better. I don't think he's going to direct the movie, but I think he has a better shot than maybe, who we just say, like Brad Bird or somebody like that. I just because, like you said, he's in the inner circle. I think we're going to get inner circle here. I think Kasdan is a smart thing. I think.
What about Simon Kinberg? He's directing that new X-Men movie, so he's probably not available.
He doesn't have the time. They're shooting that right now, so he would not have time to work on it.
What about Matt Reeves? We have no indication that the Batman is actually going to move forward in the immediate future. So is he free to take on Star Wars if he's given the opportunity?
I would think so. I mean, That would be a dream
awesome.
choice. That's not going to happen, but that would be a dream choice.
Yeah, because I think Batman is moving forward, just not with Ben Affleck, and everything is happening, and we're going to hear more about that after Justice League is out. They don't want to ruin Justice League press by saying Ben is not playing Batman anymore, because if he dies in that movie or something, they don't want to spoil it. So I think right after that, the first of the year, they're going to be like, oh, so and so is Batman, and Matt Reeves is coming out May 2020 or something. I think it's going to happen like that, but that's another story.
What is the chances of George Lucas coming out of retirement?
0.
0. Okay.
0.
I'm just bringing up options, guys.
Yeah, right. No,
you got to keep this entertaining.
Hey, there was that petition a while back about everyone that wanted George Lucas to come back and direct instead of Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah.
By
the way, I just
Lucasfilm is not going to listen to any petition. Though.
I don't know. Those petitions are pretty convincing. They always get the job done. They always get what they want.
I just remembered. I wanted to respond to what Brad said about Colin asked Ryan to put something in Last Jedi. The same thing happened with Ryan and JJ, and the small thing was make BB-8 go or stay on the Rebel base with Poe Dameron and not go with Red. That was the only change he has made. I would imagine Trevorrow's something similar. So whatever it is, I'm assuming it's probably a small detail that whoever does end up writing this new version of the movie or whatever, I think they'll just work that in. I don't think it's let's make sure Rey's parents are so-and-so. I think it'd be something small and something we'd never even think of if we didn't have the minutia of the internet to go with.
What
in
about,
my mind, again, I'm just guessing.
No, I think you're right. What about this? Rian Johnson is, for all intents and purposes, done with Last Jedi. What if he wrote the script for something and they have someone else direct it? I feel like that might be the way to go.
I think he's going to be involved. I don't think there's any way he's not involved. I mean, now he's involved with these characters, and like you said, I've heard the same stuff that this movie is done. They love it. They're very, very happy with it. They're very happy with all the issues that we've heard with Edwards, with Lord and Miller, with Trank. You didn't hear a peep about Rian Johnson. It was just smooth sailing as far as we know.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. Smooth sailing. Smooth sailing, give me $2 billion, let's do it again. That's the model here. And the smooth sailing wasn't working with Lord and Miller. It wasn't working with Edwards. So they have to bring in these fixes. And I'd rather this happen now, 18 and 19 months or 20 months from release than during production or something like having with Han Solo.
I think Kathleen Kennedy has learned that lesson pretty well.
Yes.
So, any last thoughts on this, guys? Sounds like no.
No, I do, but you go, Brad.
No, I mean, it's honestly, if anything, this is just frustrating. It's the Star Wars is something obviously that we all love intensely, and it's very difficult to see these kind of struggles happening where you can't necessarily blame Lucasfilm for these problems because they have their mission to treat Star Wars with respect and do the legacy that the saga has justice. And obviously Kathleen Kennedy is somebody who has plenty of experience in that regard, and so you can't get upset with her for firing filmmakers who aren't living up to the potential that they saw in them and the vision that they see for Star Wars in the future, because she's an expert in these kinds of things, and you have to trust what she
and
is
she
doing
has a huge track record. You look at her list of credits, you got to put some faith in that. But what you were saying, Brad, one of the things that bothers me the most about this is that it is staining all these Star Wars movies. Now when they come out, people, we talk about Rogue One. We don't get to talk about the movie. We get to talk, what was it before when the first cut? And, do you know what I mean? And it's about the controversy, and it's not about the movies. And now forever, we're going to be talking about these Star Wars movies about the controversy behind the scenes and not them.
And now every time someone gets hired, we'll be like, okay, so who's going to replace them in 6 months?
Yeah. I have three thoughts on this to sort of wrap it up. One is, I agree about it sort of tainting the conversation, but I think the Star Wars movies are just on this different tier of us having them under a microscope. And if this kind of thing happened on, I don't know, some smaller franchise, maybe like Star Trek or something. Oh, I don't. That's a bad comparison. But I don't know, any Kick-Ass 3 or something. It'd be oh, they changed the director. But Star Wars is just this microscope, and everything that happens with it gets analyzed and overanalyzed and turned into such a big deal. So I think this is a big deal, but I think it's not as big a deal as we're expecting. I hope it doesn't taint it. I think it'll only make it better. And I hope they get this done very, very quickly so that we can not deal with all these, like, the list that I'm sure you guys are working on right now. Like, who should direct it? It's like, I don't want to read these lists. Just hire it. Like, they didn't make this change without having somebody in mind. So I hope that happens quickly. And third, I'm glad that this happened not while we were in a screening of a movie, Pete, because that would have been really, really annoying. Like that happened last time.
Me and Germain were in a screening of Spider-Man Homecoming, and halfway during the movie, my phone started blowing up in my pocket like, never before. So I, like, even though this was a hot, anticipated movie, like a month before release, I look at my watch. I have the Apple Watch, and it says, Lord and Miller fired. So I excused myself from the screening and called, Ben, one of the writers on Slash Film. I was like, "You got to get this up," and he was already working on it. But gladly that this didn't break while we were in a screening.
When you say you excused yourself from the screening, do you mean you stood up in the middle of the theater and you said, "Excuse me, I have to leave. This story is happening."
Basically, that's basically what happened. Yeah.
Yes. How did you know, Brad?
I'm impressed that they're so bold.
Okay, so that was all you had to say about that, Germain?
That's it.
Okay, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can read my stuff on io9.com, gizmodo.com, and on Twitter at Germain Lussier.
And Brad, where can we find you?
Of course, I'm at slashfilm.com, at Ethan_Anderton, and you can check out my podcast, Go Flix Yourself, on iTunes.
And you can find me at slashfilm.com. Go to iTunes. Subscribe to this podcast if you aren't already subscribed. Review this, rate it, especially if you love it. And we'll see you tomorrow.